What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. And today, I'm going to be talking to you guys about a mystery. Alright, I know that was a little bit dramatic, but this is going to be the first episode of my new series where I take a look at conspiracy theories and just unsolved mysteries in general, because I think they're really interesting, and I want to tell you guys about them because I think they're cool, you know? And regardless, today we're going to be looking at, in my personal opinion, one of the most interesting mysteries that I've ever found on the internet, which is the mystery of D.B. Cooper, who is a guy that literally hijacked a plane, stole $200,000 from the government, and then just disappeared into thin air, never to be seen again. And I think that's pretty freaking savage, okay? I think Jake Paul needs to switch his definitions around because D.B. Cooper is the real savage. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into the mystery of D.B. Cooper. The year is 1971, and you're sitting in a Boeing 727 at the Portland airport, getting ready for a short 1-hour flight to Seattle. The beginning of the flight starts normally with the stewardess giving you a complimentary Coke. Now, one thing to say is it's the 70s, so I'm not really sure if this complimentary Coke is like a Coke or like Coke. But regardless, everything seems pretty normal. You're on this plane, you're just flying 1 hour to Seattle. Everything seems pretty chill, pretty standard. And as you're enjoying your Coke, you look at the back of the plane and see a man standing around 5'10", smoking a cigarette in an all-black suit. The man in the suit is standing there for a while before handing a note to the stewardess. Now, this stewardess is kind of a cutie pie, maybe a little bit thick, a little bit like Pokimane, you know, and thinks that this man is hitting on her and slips the note into her pocket. However, you see the man lean over to the stewardess and whisper something, and you're trying to read his lips, and you make out something along the lines of, "Ma'am, you might want to look at that note because I have a bomb." All right, I hate to interject again, but this is actually what happened. Like, this is what people say happened. This is what the stewardess says happened, which is wild because imagine having such a large ego that anyone that ever hands you a note ever, you just automatically assume is hitting on you. Oh, just another man on this plane trying to get with me. "Ma'am, this is a Wendy's. Also, ma'am, I have a bomb. I will blow up the plane." Like, this dude was really just trying to get his hostage takeover on, and this stewardess was like, can you please stop trying to sleep with me? I don't know. It's just one of those cases where somebody has a giant ego and it almost causes a really bad misunderstanding. The man motions to the stewardess to sit down and then proceeds to sit down next to her and pull up his briefcase and open it. And for a split second, you think you can see TNT. And this isn't any Minecraft stuff, all right? This is that good boom boom. And you overhear this mysterious man tell the stewardess to go to the pilots and tell them about the situation. And as the stewardess walks by, she kind of is holding the note, and you read it, and it says that he expects a fuel truck waiting at the Seattle airport and $200,000 in US currency in a suitcase, 2 parachutes and 2 reserve chutes, and no police. Now listen, I understand the perception of money is a little bit different, okay? I personally am not hijacking a plane for $200,000 because that's a guaranteed life prison sentence. And do you know what they do to people who hijack planes in prison? I'm gonna give you a hint. You come out not being able to hold things in as well as you used to. But regardless, we gotta remember this is 1971 dollars, and when adjusted for inflation, he expected about $1.2 million to be waiting for him at the airport, which makes things way better, okay? I'm still not hijacking a plane for $1.2 million because I feel like a lifetime prison sentence is not worth $1.2 million, but that's a little bit more understandable, all right? Like, that's a little bit better. If I heard that on the news, I'd be like, oh, okay. Not that I would ever think it's okay to hijack a plane. That's not, you guys get what I'm trying to say. Don't hijack planes. Don't do that. So, as the stewardess walked towards the cockpit, you look back at your lap and try to avoid eye contact because surprisingly, it's not very fun to make eye contact with a dude trying to hijack a plane. And you don't really look up, you just kind of avert your gaze until the stewardess gets back. And as she's walking back and you look back towards the man, you realize that he's put on sunglasses now, which automatically means he has more swag than anybody else because it's nighttime on this plane, by the way. And if you're wearing sunglasses at night, you are automatically the coolest dude in the room. I don't care who you are or what you're saying. If you wear sunglasses at night, your swagger level goes from like 0 to 17,000. It's just a proven fact. And that's really all you would see as a passenger. The next thing you would hear is the pilots coming over the intercom and telling you that your flight was going to be a little bit late on the landing due to technical difficulties, which is a really polite way of saying there's a crazy man with a bomb on the plane who's trying to hijack it. Kudos to them for not scaring people. I'll give them credit. And what's funny about this situation to me, not that there's anything funny about a plane hijacking, is that nobody on the plane knew it was even hijacked until they landed and got let off the plane, which is really funny. Like, you land, you see everybody there, you're like, wow, this is just such a big welcoming committee for me coming to Seattle. So nice. Sir, your plane was stolen. So at this point, we gotta switch to the pilot's POV, okay? And the pilots contact the airport, obviously, and kind of let them know about the situation, which is what you do when your plane is attempting to get stolen. And they basically say, yo, you gotta have the FBI chillin', all right? Like, when we pull up, you gotta have the teams ready to go. Along with that, they get the money gathered to pay the ransom. Now, I didn't know this at the time, but the airline is actually the people responsible for the ransom. So that delays them gathering the FBI, gathering the ransom, giving the airline the time to get the money to give to DB Cooper so he lets the plane go. And that's all that's going on for now. But something that we need to talk about when understanding this dude is his demeanor and like how he was acting, because it makes things even more mysterious. A dude wearing sunglasses at night that seems like he's gonna steal a plane is already creepy enough. But everybody on the plane, the passengers, the pilot, the stewardesses, after the fact said that he was so calm and polite, which is a really weird way to explain a dude trying to steal a plane. He was so nice when he opened the briefcase and showed me the explosives. Like, it's just a weird thing to say. But he was. Everybody said that he was calm, cool, and collected. Now, personally, when I think about somebody stealing something, I think of them angrily screaming on a long rant about how it's weird that Hot Pockets stay cold in the center after you've microwaved them for too long. I don't expect somebody to stay calm. And it almost makes it more mysterious because how are you staying calm in such a nerve-wracking situation? This guy obviously had a plan. He'd obviously practiced it. He'd obviously thought it through, which makes it a little bit creepier, at least to me. Like, who is this dude who can stay calm when committing such a serious crime? As soon as the plane touches down at the Seattle airport, the man stands up and demands that everyone close their sunshades and turn off the lights. And when somebody asks why they're doing this, he simply looks at them and goes, "'Cause I'm not trying to get sniped, okay? And the police snipers can't see me with the sunshades closed." And that's a pretty sick line, all things considered. Like, that's straight out of an action movie, okay? I need the sunshades closed because I'm not trying to get sniped. And neither am I. All right, I keep my sunshades closed now. Thank you, DB Cooper, for the tip. And after that super swag-tastic line, the money gets delivered to DB Cooper, the plane gets refueled, the parachutes get brought on board, and he lets all of the hostages go because that's what you do. They give you the ransom money, you gotta let the hostages go. But he keeps the pilots, which is important because when you steal a plane, you need to get away. And the easiest way to get away is taking the plane. So he keeps the pilots on board, but after letting everybody off, he goes to the pilots and has a super in-depth conversation with them about where their next flight plan is. He tells them that he wants to go to Mexico City. Something about Mexico is partying. He's gonna head down to Tijuana and just have himself a great time with the $200,000 he just scored. Now, not only does this dude seem cool as a cucumber, doesn't freak out once, doesn't panic, nothing while hijacking a plane, but on top of that, after letting go of the hostages, he just walks over to the pilots and starts talking to them about flight plans and flight patterns and flight speeds and all this stuff that normal people don't really understand. And this, to me, shows that DB Cooper had a crazy in-depth plan. This wasn't just a dude who woke up this morning and decided to steal a plane. Not that I think that's how you would go about it in the first place, but if you know enough to plan a flight plan with actual pilots, clearly you've been around the block a few times and know your way around an airplane. But we'll get more into that later, because that's the theory side of things. So at this point, the plane takes off and is heading towards Reno, Nevada, which is pretty close to where I live, so I feel kind of cool. And about 20 minutes into the flight, the stairs on the back of the plane drop down, and the pilots can see this in the cockpit, and they come over the intercom and say, "Hey, do you need help with anything? Is there anything we could do? Some refreshments maybe? Do you want some Coke? We have both types. It's the 70s. And he says no. And that's the last that anybody hears of DB Cooper. When the plane lands, 2 parachutes are gone, he's gone, the money's gone, and the only thing left is his tie. And that's the events of the night that DB Cooper does all this, which is already pretty crazy, okay? Some random dude jumping on an airplane, hijacking it, and parachuting off seems like it's the plot of an action movie, but it gets even weirder. After the plane took off from Seattle, the government told 5 planes to follow it, just to keep an eye on it, make sure it didn't divert off course, make sure nobody jumped off the plane, which he did, and most importantly, just make sure it gets to Reno safely. And all 5 of those planes say they saw nothing leaving the aircraft. And Sure, I guess you can make an argument that it's okay to not see a dude in a black suit jumping out of a plane in the middle of the night, but with all 5 planes seeing absolutely nothing, it just adds a little bit to the mystery of, did he jump? What did he do? Did he not pull the parachute? How do 5 people, that's only job it is to look at a plane, not see something leaving the plane? And on top of that, none of the ransom money was ever recovered. The FBI put out a reward for anybody that could provide matching serial numbers to the money that they gave DB Cooper, and none of it ever came forward. Now, some people think that the fact that the ransom money was never recovered means DB Cooper didn't survive, he never got to the destination, he didn't really get off the plane. However, I disagree, because the FBI basically said, if you provide matching serial numbers, we'll give you money. But how often have you really been staring at that $20 bill and gone, I better make sure that this isn't banned FBI money, and then gone on their website, which didn't exist in the 70s, to see if the serial numbers matched? Like, this wasn't the time of Google where you could just Google, is this DB Cooper money? You had to call the FBI, ask if the serial numbers matched up, send in the $20. So I'm not really surprised that the money was never recovered. Now we got to get into the theory side of it, though. Now, the accepted story that the FBI tells everybody and wants everybody to believe is that DB Cooper died. He never made it to the ground. He never got away. Somewhere in the middle of Seattle and Washington is DB Cooper with a bag full of money buried under however much dirt goes on top of a body after 40 years of being there. And their reasoning for this is that they never recovered the money. They never found parachutes. They never found a body. They didn't find DB Cooper. Which is a pretty lame theory, because all things considered, I don't think plane hijacking is a good thing, but I'd like to believe that he eventually got to Mexico City, married a woman named Consuela, and raised a beautiful family with the stolen money. But on top of that, I just don't think their reasoning as for why he died is very good. And now, I'm not the FBI, but I'm gonna tell you guys why I think DB Cooper survived and got away. So, first things first, they never found anything, which I know makes you guys be like, well, wouldn't that mean that he didn't make it, or like they didn't find him? But this is the FBI we're talking about. These are the people who can track down my browser history from 15 years ago. And when they have a flight plan of where the plane was flying and where somebody would have potentially landed if they parachute out, they can't find a body, they can't find the money, they can't find parachutes. That just doesn't make sense to me. Something would have hit the ground at some point that the FBI would have found and been able to link back to DB Cooper. And I see a lot of arguments against this, saying that the FBI would have had an insanely hard time trying to find a body. But at the same time, wouldn't it be a lot harder to find something purposely hiding and running away from you? Call me crazy, but I feel like if someone was trying to avoid me, I would have a harder time finding them than if they were just laying there, not moving at all in an area that I knew they were gonna be in. Yes, I know that there's forests, and obviously there's a lot of things to search for. But this happened 42 years ago. Over 42 years, no random hiker, nobody has found anything at all that links DB Cooper to being in that forest still. But I guess, in theory, he could have landed there and no one could have found him. Let's say that you believe that. Let's say that it's possible that the FBI just never found the body. The other thing that doesn't make any sense to me is that every other part of DB Cooper's plan was insanely thorough. Like, one of the most well thought out crimes of all time. This is a guy that knew exactly how to talk to the stewardess and get her attention without causing a massive scene and letting the entire plane know it was hijacked. On a plane full of 36 people, not a single one knew what was going on until they were off the plane. On top of that, he knew to close the sunshades when they got to the airport so that way he couldn't get sniped. He knew to ask for more than one parachute to make sure that they gave him working equipment. He talked to the pilots about a flight plan. He told them that they needed to refuel in Reno before going to Mexico City. And on top of that, a detail I left out is that he purposely told the pilots to fly lower and slower than they normally would, and what would make them get to Mexico City faster, which would also make it easier to jump out of the plane. This is not a random guy who didn't think this through. And so the idea that he planned out every single detail to a T, down to closing sunshades on a plane and learning what speeds are the best to jump out of a plane at, just to, I don't know, forget that he was going to be jumping into cold weather, doesn't make sense. Everything else was so methodical and so calm and so well thought out that it just seems ridiculous to assume that the dude didn't think before jumping out of the plane, like just didn't pull the parachute cord and fell to his death. DB Cooper was obviously a smart dude who had an incredibly well thought out plan of how he was going to get away with this. So I just have a hard time believing that he didn't think this part through, the most important part, which is getting away with the money. And on top of that, one more thing that doesn't make sense to me is that the FBI closed the DB Cooper investigation in 2016. And if they were really so incredibly confident that this dude was dead and that there was no chance that he got away, why would they spend time and money investigating it for 42 years? For 42 years, you spent time and money trying to figure out where this guy went, but according to you guys, oh, he was dead in the forest the whole time? As for why the government would want to cover up him escaping, it's really simple, at least to me. They didn't want people to copy him. If you start admitting that it's super easy to get away with hijacking a plane as long as you jump out of it in the middle of nowhere, people start to do it. So it's a lot easier to convince the public that they should never do it because you can never get away with it than it is to admit that DB Cooper is somewhere in Mexico as a millionaire right now. At the end of the day, I don't know. I can't talk to DB Cooper because obviously he's really old now if he made it, or he's dead in a forest somewhere. I don't work for the FBI, so I don't know what they know. But one thing that I can say is that the story that they've told us just doesn't add up. It's up to you guys to draw your own conclusion. Tell me what you think. And yeah. In conclusion, this has been the first episode of Unresolved Mysteries / conspiracy theory type of thing. If you enjoyed it and you want to see this once, maybe twice a week, be sure to like and comment so that way I understand that you guys like it. I've never really done anything like this before, so if you guys don't like it, I totally understand and I get you. But if you do, I'm more than happy to do more because I had a lot of fun making this. But yeah, follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Don't get anyone pregnant, and if you do, make sure they're hot. And most importantly, remember to jump out of a plane with a parachute. I'm out. Peace.